Hi everyone, I wanted to go over a few pieces of equipment to make sure that everybody knows how to use it and how to troubleshoot it. Okay, what you have before you is a suction regulator, and what's important to know about the suction regulator is that it has a button to turn it on and off. You can see that this is in the off position, and if I switch it, it goes into the on position. And you have a dial here that you can see that there's a negative and positive, and depending on the direction that you turn will increase or decrease the pressure that you want. So when it is occluded with secretions, you can see that the pressure goes up. And so with an oral suction, the hard suction, you're going to want it on the higher end, above 200 millimeters of mercury. But if you're going to be using the closed system for suction, just so everybody's aware, closed suction system for the endotracheal tube, you're going to want to decrease the amount of pressure by turning that dial down, so when it is occluded with secretions, it is below 200, and so that way you're not going to be getting some of the tracheal lining along with you. So you've turned it on, but you realize that maybe it's not working too well, and you don't see any movement here when it's occluded, or you don't hear any noise. What I want you to realize is that there is a suction tubing that goes into the suction canister, and along with that suction canister there's another switch where there's an off and then an on position as well. Now this system has to work in as a closed system, and so if you find that it's not working, one of the other troubleshooting areas is with this top. If it's not securely in place with these tabs, you're going to hear a little bit of a click, then it's not going to work. So make sure those tabs are engaged, and in the vacuum port you have the red hose which goes from the switch into the canister, and that the suction tubing is attached where it says patient, and that all other ports are actually closed. Okay, so those are the basic areas for troubleshooting. And there's one more item that I wanted to point out where I found that somebody didn't understand or didn't realize why the suction wasn't working. And you can see that there's a hard container and then you have a soft internal lining. And what I had found is that somebody saw this and said it was empty, and so they decided to put another lining inside, and they had connected it. And what appears to look normal, in fact, is not normal, because you can see when there's two soft linings, they collapse on each other because the negative pressure is not going to where it should be going. So the suction didn't work at this point, but if you see that there's a collapse inside, it's because you have two linings, and so you need to remove one of those linings and place in one soft internal canister for it to work. So we saw with this suction that it has an on-off and it has a dial to increase or decrease the pressure. We also have in the Emerge two other regulators that work in the same way. There's an on and off switch as well as a dial on this regulator. On this yellow one that we have attached to another suction, you have buttons, and the green button, if you press it, it turns it on. You can use the dial to increase or decrease the amount of suction that you require, and then to turn it off, it has another button over here. Suction catheters for the endotracheal tube come in different sizes, and they're also color-coded. The ones that we're going to be using here in the Emerge for the adult endotracheal tubes is the orange one, which is an 18 French suction. You need to realize that you need to take the package and utilize another connecting piece in order to use this system. This end goes into the suction catheter, and then the other end goes into the suction tubing, and then when you're suctioning you have to occlude this port as you withdraw it outside of the endotracheal tube. The other ones that we have are the hard suction for oral secretions, and then we also have the closed system. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to go over its use. This item is an excellent item and it prevents the secretions from being sprayed all over staff, and it keeps a closed system for the patient, so it decreases the amount of infection from a disconnect and connect to the ventilator, as well as protects staff from the patient's secretions. If you have any questions, please ask. I hope this helped.